so amazing throughout that convention. But how would it make you feel if you knew that today the persecuted church, the underground church, throughout Asia and China and Ethiopia and South Africa, how would you feel if you knew that they were praying desperately for the American church? How would that make you feel? I'm talking about the church that can't meet in the daylight. The church that many times their services start at midnight and they're clandestine. And they have their service until 3 o'clock in the morning, and then they go home so that they can, so that it doesn't appear that they were in church. And just to find out that the Ethiopian church, you know what Ethiopia has been through. There's an incredible revival. There's an incredible move of God throughout Ethiopia. And those people in their conventions are praying desperately for the American church. That was really stirring and sobering to me. And but the greatest joy, it was just such an incredible joy. The convention that we went to represents 180 church organizations around the world. And delegates from all those church organizations come and gather in Louisville once a year. And you would see every color, every race, everyone was represented there. Many of them in their native attire, and just to see the glory of the Lord sweep that house was just an amazing, amazing experience. And one of the young men that preached is going to be a speaker at South Bend at what they call Connect. It's a youth convention that will be there on a youth conference June 19th through the 21st in South Bend, Indiana. And South Bend is actually where this Reverend Peter Ralph, I guess it was his name, Peter Ralph. Anyway, this Reverend Ralph first had the vision of having this fellowship of ministries from all over the world and started that many, many years ago. Anyway, his grandson or great-grandson is the speaker. And he is married to a woman from the Philippines. And he spoke and told about how her father, he is a fiery man of God. He's a leader of the Philippine organization. And the Muslim population there has so oppressed the Christians that they were imprisoning. They had put a bunch of them, put them in a prison camp. And this brother said, they're not going to get away with this. And there were 13 of these men that went right down to this Al-Qaeda camp and were demanding the release of these people these Christians that they had imprisoned. And they just, of course, laughed them to scorn. And they made these 13 men dig their own graves. And they said, this is your last day. This is your last prayer. They told this brother, they said, pray your last prayer because you're going to die. And so the guy came with this great big AK-47 or whatever. And he shot around in the air, and then he pointed it at him and attempted to fire it, and it wouldn't fire. And he repeated that over and over and was unable to kill this man. Then he took a pistol from one of the young men nearby, and he said, give me that pistol. And he shot the pistol in the air, and he put it up to his head, and he attempted to shoot him again and could not shoot this brother. He could not kill him. And these people were just dumbfounded. Well, they decided, okay, since we can't kill you with our guns, then we're going to put you in prison and we're going to starve you to death. So 8 days later, they went to see, they thought these guys would be dying. And they went to the prison where these guys were shut up. And they had no water and no food, in this in this hot country. And when they went back to see them, they were just like Paul and Silas. They were praising the Lord. And they let these people go, and they said, of course, you've got to stop what you're doing, of course. But they let them go, and they didn't kill them. And then this brother that's going to be preaching this conference for our youth. He and his wife have a house in the Philippines, and they had to catch a plane back to the U.S. They'd been over there for a while, and they were at their house there. They were getting ready to catch the plane. His wife wanted to spend a little bit more time with her parents, so she hadn't come home. She was going to come home much later that night. And so he took the children on home and was putting them to bed, and the little boy said, "I don't want to sleep in my bedroom," which was very unusual. He said, "I want to sleep with where my sisters are." So he went into the room, and so that he put them in all three of the children into one bedroom. And Brother Luke Smith had a lot of money on him because there had been a lot of money raised to bring, for the work. And his wife had said, "You need to put that in the bank." And he said, "No, it's not safe in the bank. I need to keep that with me." Well, he fell down and went to sleep in an exhausted sleep. And he said he's usually a person that the slightest noise around him awakens him immediately. And he said that the next thing that he knew, his wife was standing at the foot of his bed. She had come in, and she said, "What on earth is going on here?" And he jumped up and said, "What do you mean?" And when he did, he saw there was a knife laying just a couple of feet from his head. And all of their stuff had been ransacked. Everything had been gone through. The money was gone. And all of their equipment was gone. All their laptops and all their electronic equipment. And his thought was the children, because that was his first thought. He said he was just terrified. And he ran to the bedroom and threw open the door. And there were all of his children in that one bedroom. And they looked around. Of course, they had called the police by this time, and it became a crime scene. But they looked in the bedroom where those thieves, those robbers had come in, and it was right over the bed where his little boy would have been lying. And the police chief said to him, he said, I don't understand this, because we know the gang, this is with the fingerprints and everything, we know who did this. And they never leave anybody alive. They kill. And so it was just the most amazing testimony. And then we heard this other brother that has gone all over Asia. His ministry is International Asian Ministry. I forget the name of it. But anyway, he's gone all over many, many countries. And when there was in the early days of the Chinese underground church, he was one of those that was smuggling the Bibles. And I guess he was allowed to take one Bible, his Bible, in, but he couldn't take any others. But every time that he went into that country, he took 150 Bibles each time. And when he would go through the customs, every time, something would happen that those Bibles would slip through. It was the most amazing miracle. He would get through with those Bibles. Either the officials would turn their head at that time, or they just wouldn't see them. And he had said, how am I going to get them in there, Lord? Should I put them on a backpack? And he put them in this backpack, and it was so obvious. And he said, the Lord said, just carry them. And he just carried them in his hand. And he went right through with all those Bibles. They didn't even notice those Bibles. And he told how now, the Chinese church now is just very, very widespread. I mean, it's just amazing what God has done in China, the believers and the officials that have even been raised up. But they have no lack of Bibles in China now. And the reason that they have no lack is because the church just pays the prison. They have they can print in the prisons. The prisoners print those Bibles, and the Christians just pay them the money to print, and the officials just turn their head and let it happen. And so the Bibles have just flooded China, and it's just an incredible. There were so many wonderful stories that I heard there, so many wonderful things. I just wish I could have taken every one of you there and that you could have heard and seen all of the things that we did. But the Church of the Living God is alive and well throughout the earth. Amen. role that the Messianic Jews are playing in all of this, and how God is moving among the Jewish people all over the world, not just in Israel, but in those enclaves of Jewish populations. In every country, there's an amazing movement of God in that. And I do have some literature on the Messianic Jewish believers. And I brought one of these magazines if you just like to look through it and just kind of get a little flavor of what it was like. But the other thing that I brought back from that was such a love for the truth, because sometimes I get a little I don't know how to say it word, lackadaisical. Is that how you say it? I feel that I don't treasure the truth that I have nearly as much as I should. But when I saw all of those, I'd be like, well, I have 7, how many in Mexico that they had?
Just out of one Indian tribe, 70,000.
That's just out of one of the Indian tribes. That was someone that Brother Don met, too. 70,000 in just one Indian tribe that has just born again believers, just filled with the Spirit and baptized in Jesus' name. It's just amazing how the truth of the gospel is just all over, and people are praying for America that our church wakes up.
In a moment, we'll go to our class, but it's an amazing thing the Lord is doing